It is time for an August TBR, so let's talk about all of the books that I'm hoping to get to in the month of August. So even though July isn't over yet, I'm really hoping that I'm only going to not read one book on my TBR for this month, and that is pretty legendary for me. So I am having some high hopes. I have 9 books that I am so pumped to read. I have been thinking about these books for a while now, and instead of putting them off any longer, I'm just cramming them into one month apparently. So I am stoked, and I hope that you all enjoy this as well. Okay, so I think that I'm going to break this video into different sections. So we are going to start with the romance genre and go from there. So first we have a new release from Rachel Lynn Solomon, and that is Business or Pleasure. I love this cover. It is so cute. I think it's adorable. So this story follows a ghostwriter who is at an event where she ends up not being recognized by her own author. Can you imagine? And so she has this kind of clumsy one-night stand with a man, and she's like, oh, it's fine, whatever. Not really great. But then she finds out that her next assignment is for the C-list actor to write his memoir, and it turns out to be this guy who she has had this lackluster one-night stand with. He thought it was phenomenal. So, kind of funny because now she is going to teach him, when she's not writing his book, how to the art of pleasure. So they are trying to keep it very professional, but we'll see if that is attainable. I read Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon a couple months ago, and the steamy parts of that book were really steamy. I was not prepared, but they were really good. I didn't mind it at all. Definitely looking forward to the steam in here. I think it's going to be fun because it's a ghostwriter, so a little bit in publishing and kind of like a workplace romance. So I think it'll be super fun. My next pick is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. So this follows a woman whose aunt has told her to live big and shoot for the moon and everything, but to keep her heart safe, she wants to stay grounded and bury herself in her work. After her aunt passes, she ends up getting the apartment that her aunt used to own, and she's very excited. It's very charming, but then she walks in and she sees a man standing there in the kitchen, and she has no idea what's going on. But it turns out he is somebody from 7 years ago. So kind of a paranormal twist to it a little bit. So he is 7 years in the past, and she is, as the description says, quite literally 7 years in the future. So I'm not sure how that is going to work, but I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a ton of fun nonetheless. I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston last year, and that was an easy 5-star read for me. It was so fun. It had some deeper topics, but they were talked about very lightly so that it didn't throw off the whole tone of the book. But it was so good. I loved it, and the paranormal element in that book was super fun too, and I liked how she made everything better in the end, because with the paranormal romance, how is it really going to work? And I have no idea how it's actually going to work in here, but it worked out really well in The Dead Romantic, so I expect nothing less. Hoping for another 5-star read from her, but we will see. And also, in case you didn't get a good look at this, I love this cover. It is so cute and bright and fun. My next pick is Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan, and if you know the name Julia Whelan, she is a fantastic audiobook narrator. So just keep that in mind as I go into the description. So this book focuses on Sewanee. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right, but I really have no idea. But she used to be in film and was on camera all the time, but she has found solace in voice acting as an audiobook narrator. So she's really enjoying doing this, and it allows her more time to take care of her elderly grandma. As an audiobook narrator, she ends up at a book festival in LA and has a whirlwind night with this stranger, and then she comes home and is trying to decide if she is going to narrate a romance novel for a late author that she really enjoyed. So she's coming out of her romance retirement because romance has not worked out so well for her in the past. And she is going to give this a try, as she is narrating one part and the very mysterious, very sensual male character is doing another. So it's about her essentially coming out of her shell and trying to get back out there, allow herself to just enjoy life a little bit more and take some risks. I think that it's going to be fun. I actually am going to listen to this as an audiobook because hopefully she narrates it. I think that it's going to be just super fun, and I really enjoyed her audiobook narration, so I really wanted to support her and read her book. And I'll let you all know if you should read it too. Okay, and then I believe actually that the rest of my books for the month are some sort of fantasy romance. Yeah, so I think that's most of the rest of the month, so keep that in mind as we go into this. So we are coming up on spooky season and I am so excited. So I wanted to get a kickstart on my witch reads. So I am going to be reading The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mendana. Hope I'm saying that right. But this book has had amazing reviews. I've heard such good things about this. It's essentially about a woman who knows that she's a witch essentially, but it's kind of forbidden to be a witch. So she keeps her life very normal, very fine, except for when she is online. She has this account where she pretends to be a witch. Nobody really believes it until somebody does. And then they send her this note that's begging her to come to this location to train other witches. And even though it's against all of the rules, she still decides to go and pursue that. She goes to this place called Nowhere House, and she ends up teaching these 3 young witches how to control their magic and be witches. So she is having a good time. She has some found family, except for the librarian at Nowhere House who views every outsider as a threat. So she is an annoyingly irresistible threat. So this is going to be about found family, breaking the rules, I think a little bit of a rivals to lovers, but witchy nonetheless, and I'm so excited. I love a witch book, so I'm very excited for this. If you've read it, let me know your thoughts. Next this month, I think I'm going to pick up both This Woven Kingdom and These Infinite Threads. So these are both by Tahara Mafi, and that is the author of the Shatter Me series. So this book essentially follows our main character, who is the rightful heir to a throne, and she has to stay hidden because people are out to unalive her. So she stays hidden in plain sight while also still trying to build up a following so that she can reclaim the throne. From the other perspective, we have a prince who knows that she is the rightful heir. Even though he knows the fate of what she will bring to the current king, he cannot seem to bring himself to harm her. I think definitely a forbidden romance. It's a YA fantasy, so I have really high hopes because in those kinds of fantasies, it's not a ton of world building. It's normally easier to grasp, and I really appreciate that when I'm getting into fantasy, and especially because they are a little bit of a thicker read. I like to be able to get into it pretty quickly. So I'm hoping that it'll be a strong plot of romance, but I'm even more excited for her trying to get her throne back. Next we have The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This book is also on Kindle Unlimited, so if you want to pick it up there, I know that I'm going to be reading it on my Kindle, so even though I have the nice big floppy paperback. This story essentially follows a human who is in this vampire world, and she has made herself so that she can basically stay alive within it. But in order to make sure that she stays alive, she has to enter this competition. As she's trying to be something more than prey in these competitions, she has to overcome very ruthless unalivers at this point. She'll have to make unlikely alliances with individuals that could very well harm her, and be attracted to people that she really doesn't want to be attracted to. So I think this will definitely be more of a subplot of romance. I've heard people say that it's similar to ACOTAR, but also that it's not at all. I guess with the competition, I think more of Throne of Glass and how they're competing to be the king's assassin. I've heard amazing things about Carissa Broadbent, her style, her writing. I think it's going to be super fun, and I'm looking forward to it. Lastly, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and I am sure that so many of you have heard about this book. It is just taking over right now, apparently. But this is a YA fantasy, I believe, also a romance. But essentially in the story, the gods are warring again, but our main female character is trying to keep her head afloat. Her mother is ailing, her brother is missing from the front lines, so she's really just trying to stay afloat, and the way that she sees to do this is to get a promotion at the Oath Gazette. I'm assuming it's some type of like news press. So she starts writing these letters to her brother and she puts it underneath of her wardrobe and they disappear. She thinks it's going to her brother, but it's actually going to her rival at the company, and he ends up anonymously writing her back, and they start to build a friendship and a relationship, but they, I don't even think, know it, or at least she doesn't know it. So magical elements, romance, workplace rivals. It says enemies to lovers, but if it's just workplace rivals, maybe it'll be more since it's fantasy. I like to say workplace rivals more than anything, but the stakes are higher because it is fantasy. I've heard great things about it. I heard that it ends on a pretty intense cliffhanger, so I am looking forward to just seeing what all the hype is about. And I think it's interesting too because I've seen a few people say that they think it's going to be 5 stars, but then it ends up being 4. So I'm curious where the excitement kind of dies off or what's not meeting expectations. We'll see. And then my last read, which is not fantasy, it's more so I think dystopian, but this is The Gracier by Kim Liggett, and I am so excited about this. I have seen quite a few of the big booktubers read this book so far, and it's kind of been mixed reviews, but I think it has all the elements to be a really good read for me. Essentially, we're in this dystopian society, and at the age of 16, women are sent into the woods to release all of their magic. Men are scared of women's magic, and this is their grace year. Some people don't make it back from their grace year, but if you do make it back, then you are a suitable woman ready for marriage. I think that is going to be Handmaid's Tale elements in here, where we just get the ultimate ick from men in here. But I think that we're going to have some feminine rage, which I eat up and I love. I actually think that this is also YA, but I've heard that it's also kind of gruesome for being YA. Regardless, I'm just so here for it. I'm hoping that there's going to be a great deal of feminine rage. I'm ready for it. But this is also on Kindle Unlimited if you are interested in that and want to pick it up. And those are all the books that I'm hoping to get to in the month of August. I'm sure I'll deviate from the stack just a bit, but I'm so excited about all of them. I don't think I'll actually need to. A ton of good books here. I'm really hopeful that I'll love them and love them as much as I'm hyping them up, I guess. If you've read any of these, please let me know in the comments down below so that I can get excited or manage my expectations, I think, a little bit before I get going into them. But thanks for hanging out, and like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of these book videos, but also hang around so that you can see my July reading wrap up and all the books that I bought in July. It should be quite the video. Thank you, and I'll see you all soon.